Imagine a man so beloved that Romans believed he was the second coming of Augustus. Now, imagine that same man forcing senators to kiss his feet, appointing his horse as a priest, and ordering an army to collect seashells as war spoils. His name was Gaius Caesar, but history remembers him as Caligula. He ruled for just 4 years, but those years shook the Roman Empire to its core. Tonight, we take you on an in-depth journey through the rise, rule, and ruin of one of Rome's most infamous emperors, not just through ancient texts, but through context, culture, and consequence. You'll hear his full story, from golden child of the legions to divine tyrant, from a Rome in love with a boy to a Senate paralyzed with fear. Welcome to Past Uncovered. Caligula was born in Antium in 12 AD, into the heart of Rome's most illustrious bloodline. His father, Germanicus, was a hero, the kind of man Roman poets called the true heir of Augustus. His mother, Agrippina the Elder, was fiercely loyal to her family and legacy. As a child, Caligula joined his parents on military campaigns in Germania. Dressed in miniature army boots, or Caligae, soldiers affectionately nicknamed him Caligula, Little Boots. But his family's success bred enemies. In 19 AD, Germanicus died under suspicious circumstances. Some claimed poison, others blamed Emperor Tiberius. Agrippina returned to Rome furious and vocal, and that was dangerous. Over the next decade, she and her sons were slowly eliminated, one by one, exiled, imprisoned, starved. By 30 AD, Caligula was the only one left. He was sent to Capri, where Tiberius had built his pleasure palace. There, in the shadow of imperial paranoia and cruelty, the last son of Germanicus waited. On Capri, Caligula became a master of survival. He watched as Tiberius executed advisors, family, and friends. He learned to smile through fear, to flatter without belief. Tacitus wrote, "He had no natural inclination to servitude. He had simply learned to hide his hate." When Tiberius died in 37 AD, possibly smothered by his Praetorian commander, he named Caligula and Tiberius Gemellus co-heirs. But the Senate and people rallied behind Caligula. The Praetorian Guard declared him emperor. Gemellus was eliminated, and Rome rejoiced. After years of Tiberius's cruelty and absence, Caligula represented hope. He began with generosity, abolished unpopular taxes, hosted games, gave bonuses to the guard, and honored his family. Statues were restored, and exiles returned. Caligula walked into the Senate with humility and promised to share power. But this golden dawn was short-lived. Just months into his reign, Caligula fell seriously ill. The sources are vague, perhaps epilepsy, encephalitis, or poisoning. He was near death for weeks. When he recovered, Rome rejoiced, but they soon realized something had changed. Caligula no longer trusted anyone. He claimed divinity, not metaphorically, but as fact. He walked the palace dressed as Apollo or Mercury. He had temples built to his name and demanded sacrifices. He turned against the Senate, mocking their authority. He revived treason trials, demanded public worship, and unleashed the full power of the imperial treasury. What followed was a blitz of projects and paranoia. He began constructing new temples, expanding ports, and commissioning massive palaces. He drained the imperial treasury and invented new taxes, marriage licenses, theater permits, even a toll for standing near him. Those who opposed him disappeared. Caligula's god complex was more than symbolic. He began rewriting myth in his own image. Statues of Zeus and Jupiter were refashioned to bear his face. He appeared before the people in divine costume and expected applause. He turned the imperial palace into a theater of humiliation. Senators were forced to run beside his chariot, grovel on command, and address him as divine. He threatened to appoint his horse, Incitatus, as consul. Though often retold as madness, this was likely a calculated insult, a demonstration that even an animal could outperform the Senate. His personal life was no less scandalous. He engaged in incestuous rumors, arbitrary executions, and open cruelty. Entire noble families were ruined for sport or suspicion. Public executions became theater. Noble women were summoned for his pleasure. And still the Senate said nothing, because fear ruled Rome. In 40 AD, Caligula launched a campaign in Gaul and Germania. It began with serious military posturing. The legions marched, ports mobilized, supply lines built. Then came the absurdity. At the shores of the English Channel, Caligula ordered soldiers to line up and attack the sea. They slashed at waves, threw javelins into the surf, and collected seashells, spoils of war, he said, against Neptune. Historians have puzzled over this. Was it madness, mockery, or a failed invasion rewritten as victory? He returned to Rome demanding a triumph, and Rome, exhausted, terrified, humiliated, gave him one. By early 41 AD, Caligula had few allies left. The Senate hated him, the people feared him, and even the Praetorian Guard, once his enforcers, had grown disillusioned. Cassius Chaerea, a tribune mocked by Caligula for his voice and demeanor, began to conspire. Others joined. On January 24th, 41 AD, as Caligula made his way through a corridor under the Palatine Theater, the assassin struck. He was stabbed over 30 times. His German bodyguards arrived too late. His wife, Caesonia, and daughter were also murdered. Rome descended into chaos. The Senate moved to restore the Republic, but the Praetorian Guard had other plans. They discovered Claudius, Caligula's uncle, hiding behind a curtain. By the next morning, Claudius was emperor. Caligula's statues were torn down, his edicts erased. His name became synonymous with cruelty and madness. But was he truly insane, or simply corrupted by absolute power? Modern scholars debate whether he suffered from mental illness or trauma from childhood loss and years under Tiberius. Perhaps his excesses were symptoms, not of madness, but of unchecked imperial power. His reign, brief as it was, left a long shadow. Caligula became a warning in the imperial memory, a lesson to future emperors: rule too wildly, and even Caesar can fall. Caligula's story is not just one of madness, it's one of betrayal, trauma, survival, and excess. He was born into glory, raised in fear, and consumed by the very power that elevated him. In studying him, we glimpse the fragile foundations of empire and the dangerous illusion that power without limits can ever be safe. History is not only shaped by heroes, but by those who show us what happens when we forget our limits. If you've made it this far, thank you for uncovering history with us. There are many stories like Caligula's, stories buried beneath time, distorted by myth, and waiting to be told. At Past Uncovered, we bring you the real lives behind the legends. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep the past alive and the stories unfolding. Until next time, remember, the truth of history is rarely simple and always worth uncovering.